In this video, we're going to continue along with JavaScript syntax, and specifically we're going to take a look at loops, and even more specifically we're going to take a look at while loops. Now loops will look very familiar to you if you have experience in other programming languages. Now loops are very similar to if statements, which we covered in the last few videos when we talked about conditionals. And loops do something very similar. They are testing a condition. That condition has to be true or false. If it is true, the block of code will get executed. If it is false, it is all over. But here is where loops are different than if statements. If this condition is true, it will execute this line of code and it will loop around and then test the condition again. And if it is true, it will keep going. And so that is the difference between if statements and while loops. While loops will keep executing it as long as it is true until it hits the first false condition, and then the loop exits out of the program. So again, that is the key difference. Now you might ask, well, what if this condition is always true? Then you get into what's called an infinite loop scenario. And that is not a good scenario because you'll never get out of this loop. It'll just keep going around and around in a vicious cycle, and the rest of your program will not run. So this has to eventually test out false, or again, you will have an infinite loop. And the way we do that is we set up a counter. And we'll do that in a second. But first, let's set up the condition. And we're going to say I, which is less than 5. So as long as I is less than 5, this condition will be true. Now the first thing that we need to do is create a variable called I. And so we'll do that right up here. And so we're going to say I equals 1. And this I stands for index. Our index will start out at 1. And so if we executed this now, well, 1 is less than 5, and so this would be executed. But we would still have an infinite loop because this would loop around and I would always be 1. So we have to change the value of I. And how do we do that? Through an incrementer, which we talked about a few videos ago. And so let's put that right down here. And so now this will get incremented by 1 each time this while loop runs. So let's just walk through this. So we defined the variable I here and started it out at 1. The loop will get executed. It will be true because I is less than 5. The block of code will run. And then after that, this will get incremented by 1. And so it'll come around here, and this value for our variable will now be incremented by 1 to 2. And it'll go all the way around till it reaches 5, and then obviously 5 is not less than 5, and the program will terminate at that point. So let's go ahead and save this, and we'll flip over to our web page, and let's go ahead and run this in Chrome. And there you can see we got the expected results. We got 4 sentences of a statement has run. It didn't run a 5th time because, again, 5 is not less than 5, and that's what we expected. Okay, that is going to do it for this video. In the next video, we will continue on with loops, and we will take a look at one of the more popular loops that is used in JavaScript. See you guys in the next video.